Highway 17 has a reputation, a dark, spine-chilling one. And for those who've driven it late at night, the stories aren't just rumors, they're terrifyingly real. There's something about a lonely stretch of road that brings out our deepest fears. The unknown can turn even the most logical among us into believers. True horror stories are shared across countless platforms like Reddit, where real people recount events that defy explanation. These tales aren't crafted for movies or books. They're raw, unsettling, and often leave us questioning what's real. Tonight, I'll share one such story. A tale so eerie, so chilling, that it has haunted the person who lived it for years. This isn't fiction. This isn't hearsay. Highway 17 is no ordinary road, twisting and winding through dense woods. It has an almost otherworldly feel, especially at night. It's a lonely stretch with sparse streetlights, making the darkness around it feel heavy and alive. The only sounds are the faint rustle of leaves in the wind and the hum of your car engine. For years, locals have whispered about Highway 17. Stories of accidents, sudden apparitions, and drivers claiming they've seen something or someone on the side of the road. Some laugh it off as urban legend, while others swear they've experienced it themselves. The night in question began like any other for the protagonist of our story. James was an ordinary guy, no belief in ghosts or the supernatural, no interest in the paranormal. He was simply trying to get home after a long day at work. The clock on his dashboard glowed 11:47 p.m. as he merged onto Highway 17. The drive was quiet, almost soothing at first. The occasional car would pass by, their headlights momentarily cutting through the pitch-black surroundings. James turned up the radio, trying to stay awake, but a strange unease began creeping in. It wasn't the kind of fear that makes you panic, just a nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. The trees along the roadside seemed taller than usual, their branches bending in ways that looked unnatural in the moonlight. Even the air inside the car felt colder, though the heater was on. Just my imagination, James muttered to himself, gripping the wheel a little tighter. But the silence outside seemed to press against the car, growing louder with each passing mile. Then he saw her. At first, James thought it was a trick of the light. A woman stood on the side of the road, her figure barely visible in the shadows. She was wearing white, a dress that seemed out of place for someone standing alone on a highway at this hour. James instinctively slowed down. The beam of his headlight swept across her, and he saw her clearly for the first time. Her face was pale, almost too pale, and her eyes were fixed ahead, staring blankly into the distance. What is she doing out here? James thought, his heart beginning to race. Was she lost? Injured? She didn't move, didn't wave him down, but something about her presence tugged at him. James pulled over a few feet ahead of where she stood. He hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to do. Rolling down his window, he called out, "Hey, are you okay? Do you need help?" No response. His voice seemed to dissolve into the night. The woman remained motionless, her gaze unchanging. James felt a shiver crawl down his spine. He decided to get out of the car. As soon as his feet hit the pavement, he felt the cold, an unnatural chill that didn't match the weather. He approached cautiously, his steps echoing faintly in the stillness. "Ma'am," he called again, louder this time. "Are you all right?" And then she was gone. James froze, his breath catching in his throat. 1 second she was there, and the next, nothing. No sound, no movement, as if she had never been there at all. His chest tightened as a wave of dread washed over him. He turned around quickly, scanning the road and the trees, but there was no sign of her. The spot where she had stood was empty, just a patch of cracked asphalt under the dim glow of his headlights. A cold sweat broke out on his forehead. James felt his pulse hammering in his ears. He hurried back to his car, fumbling with the door handle before sliding inside and locking it. "What the hell was that?" he whispered, his hands trembling as he gripped the steering wheel. As he drove away, the chill lingered in the car, and the darkness around him seemed heavier than before. Every shadow felt alive, every curve in the road a potential hiding place for something. James didn't stop until he was safely home, but the image of the woman in white stayed with him. Her pale face, her blank stare. It was burned into his mind, and he couldn't shake the feeling that she was still out there, waiting on Highway 17. James didn't sleep much that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her again. The pale woman standing on the side of the road, her lifeless stare piercing through him. By morning, he decided he needed answers. Over breakfast, he shared the story with his sister, Emily. She was skeptical at first. "You were probably just overtired," she said. "Your mind plays tricks on you when you're driving late at night." But James was adamant. "I know what I saw. She was real. And then she wasn't." Emily frowned, her usual teasing demeanor replaced by something more serious. "You were on Highway 17, right?" she asked. James nodded. "I've heard stories about that road," Emily said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "People say it's haunted. There's this legend about a woman in white. Supposedly, she died there years ago." The word sent a chill down James's spine. "What happened to her?" he asked. Emily shrugged. "I don't know all the details, but there was a car accident, a bad one. She didn't survive, and ever since, people claim they've seen her. Always in the same spot, wearing the same dress." James's stomach turned. The memory of the woman's blank expression was too vivid, too real to ignore. That evening, he turned to the internet, searching for stories about Highway 17. It didn't take long to find them. Threads on forums, posts on Reddit. Countless people had shared eerily similar encounters. One post stood out. "I saw her too," it read. The user described driving late at night, spotting a woman in white, and pulling over to help, only for her to vanish without a trace. James felt a strange mix of relief and unease. He wasn't alone in what he'd experienced, but the realization only made it more chilling. As he read more, he learned about the tragic accident. Years ago, a young woman had been driving home from a party when her car skidded off the road on that exact stretch of Highway 17. It was a rainy night, and visibility was poor. Her car collided with a tree, and she didn't survive the crash. Locals believed her spirit lingered, tied to the place where her life had ended so abruptly. Some said she was looking for help, hoping someone might save her, even in death. Others believed she was trapped, forced to relive her final moments over and over again. The theories only deepened James's unease. Was she trying to communicate with him? Was there something he could have done to help her? Days turned into weeks, but James couldn't shake the encounter. It crept into his thoughts during quiet moments, resurfacing when he least expected it. He found himself avoiding Highway 17 altogether, taking longer routes to work just to avoid passing that spot. For someone who had always been a skeptic, the experience was life-changing. James began reading more about the paranormal, diving into stories of hauntings and spirits. He didn't want to believe, but the evidence was too compelling. "I never used to think about ghosts," he admitted to a friend one evening. "Now, I can't stop wondering. What if they're real? What if she's still out there?" The questions haunted him just as much as the encounter itself. Why had she appeared to him? What did she want? Could he have helped her in some way? Or was she simply a lost soul, bound to the highway forever? Some nights, he thought about going back, driving down Highway 17 again, stopping in the same spot. But the fear always won out. The memory of her vanishing was too vivid, too unsettling. Over time, James began to share his story more openly. He told friends, co-workers, even strangers online. Some dismissed it as a hallucination, a trick of the mind, but others believed him. One older man, a regular at James's favorite diner, listened intently as he recounted the encounter. When James finished, the man nodded slowly. "You did the right thing by stopping," he said. "Even if you couldn't help her, it shows you've got a good heart. Some people wouldn't have even slowed down." The words brought James a small measure of comfort, but they didn't erase the questions or the lingering fear. As much as he tried to move on, part of him remained tethered to that night. He avoided late-night drives, especially on lonely roads. Every time he saw a figure in the distance, his heart skipped a beat, his mind flashing back to the woman in white. James's story became a cautionary tale shared among friends and strangers alike. Some listened with fascination, others with doubt, but no one could deny the eerie details. And now, it's your turn to hear it. If you ever find yourself driving down Highway 17 late at night, keep your eyes on the road, but don't be surprised if you catch a glimpse of her. Maybe you'll see her standing in the shadows, her white dress faintly glowing under your headlights. Maybe she'll vanish before you can blink, leaving nothing but a chill in the air and the pounding of your heart. And if you do see her, take this advice. Keep driving. Don't stop. Don't look back. Because sometimes the dead aren't looking for help. Sometimes they're just looking for you. So, what do you think? Was James just overtired? Or did he truly encounter something beyond explanation on Highway 17? Do you believe in ghosts? Have you ever had a spine-chilling encounter like this? Or do you know someone who has? If so, we want to hear your story. Drop your experiences in the comments below. Who knows, your tale might be featured in one of our future videos. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with someone who loves true horror stories. And if you want more unsettling tales like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Turn on the notification bell so you'll never miss a chance to explore the eerie, the unexplainable, and the downright terrifying with us. Until next time, stay safe, and maybe think twice about driving Highway 17 at night. Who knows what or who you might encounter.